Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide. This is going to be a series of how-to tutorials, how to best maximize your Remarkable 1 or 2 paper tablet. One of the features that I find extremely useful on the Remarkable platform is the convert to text feature, where the device is able to actually recognize what you've written and convert it to text. Now, since this is an automated process, of course it will depend on several factors, and there's a couple of things that you can actually keep in mind and a couple of things that you can do to help the device give you better results. Here's a list of things that I do that actually help me get really good results pretty much all of the time. One of the most obvious things is that block letters are easier to recognize. And it's quite forgiving actually when you're writing with block letters. However, that doesn't mean that cursive is not also an option, because we can go here if you keep a couple of things in mind. First of all, always keep in mind that you need to write a little bit more clearly than you usually would for the conversion to actually be more successful. It just stands to reason. If you are unable to read your own handwriting, why would you expect the device to be able to recognize your scribbles? Having in mind that if you are going to use those scribbles or whatever it is that you're writing and that you need it to be converted to text, then it's a really good idea to actually write with that in mind and basically keep the spacing between the letters clear, keep the size of the words and letters in the words consistent, and complete letters, etc., etc. So even cursive would work fine, which is block letters are easier to recognize. And I'm intentionally writing quite messy because I'm kind of hopeful that he's going to be able to figure things out. But for example, this is not an R. This is nothing. This is just a scribble. Just because I know that it says easier and the R at the end, it just doesn't work. And the recognize is a complete freaking scribble. I mean, so there's quite a bit of a difference between writing like this or writing maybe Let's see how successful it is between these two. So I'm just going to go to share, convert to text, and here we go. So block letters are easier to recognize. So the block letters, he doesn't really have a problem at all. However, block letters are always going to be recognized as capitalized. Now, the first scribbled one is block letters are easier. So it was able to recognize that horrible R that I've written, but recognize, I can't really blame the device for that because what I wrote there was horrible. And then the final line was block letters are easier to recognize. Not a problem at all. Now you'll see that we have these two kind of together. If I add a dot at the end of each, then the system will know that this is an end of a sentence. And it will should know, there we go. So now this actually helped it understand, hey, this was a word. What could that word have meant? So punctuation is also incredibly important to actually add correctly in your writing, because as you directly saw, you get from a scribble or unrecognizable thing, it managed actually to recognize this. So punctuation, equal spacing, and of course, block letters if you want capitalization, but block letters are definitely the easiest ones that the system will recognize. What about other things such as bullet points? Well, the bullet points, it's actually really good at recognizing bullet points, but not if you write them like this. I wouldn't really recommend that. I would actually always go with the dash, because with the dash, it almost never fails. Again, and another dash, and I can add my punctuation here, and here I'm gonna add, this is my new paragraph, and here I'm gonna try with bullet points. My point 1, point 2, and let's convert and see what we get. So this time actually it was quite successful with the bullet points as well, but in my experience I find it that the dashes are a much more reliable way of getting it to understand the bullet points themselves. One thing that I also wanted to point out is that when you're writing numbers, there are different standards and different habits that people use when they write numbers. But one thing again is important to keep in mind, that if you want the system to be able to actually recognize these things, one of the most common one is in US standards, 1 is written just like a vertical line, and it's without even this little thing, it's just a 1. So in Europe, we normally write like this, or even more completely with the bottom down there. And you will see also that the 4 can be written like this, usually quite successful, but if written like this, far more successful. 7 can be written like this, or like this as well. And all of these are probably going to be successful except for the American style vertical letter one, because that one is probably going to be recognized as just an I. Now, why the ordering changed, I'm not entirely sure. That's not something that I've encountered that often, but the thing that I do encounter almost always is that if you just write a vertical line, this will most likely be recognized, depending on the context, either as a capital I or as a lowercase l. But if you want it to be a 1, then you need to write it either like this, even a small hook at the top will work, or a full 1 is your safest bet. 4 is usually quite good, and 7, but sometimes I also see it that if it's written just like this, the system can have a little bit of a problem. And now this is another thing that I want to do and show you, is that do not doodle. And you should not doodle around, because all doodles, underscores, circling and all that kind of stuff, while the system is really there we go, while the system is trying really hard not to interfere or not to be distracted by the doodles will definitely doodle it so that it doesn't understand what's going on. So try to refrain yourself from having little drawings and things like that when you are preparing a document that you know that you will need to convert later on to text. Finally, I would also like to cover what is not recognized by the convert to text. So the convert to text does not recognize shapes or symbols, unfortunately. So if I draw a square, a circle, a triangle, a tilde, maybe the tilde will be recognized, or maybe if I just write x plus y equals c, we will not get that type of result. So let's convert and see what do we get. However, not that successfully. Usually I find it, so it doesn't really manage to have these special kind of expressions here. So square is an L7, circle is an O, triangle is a 4, tilde was a tilde, figure was the whole square root kind of thing, and x2 plus y2 minus 0,2. So it gets very, very confused with things like this, and it definitely doesn't recognize symbols. One of the things that's kind of a bummer is that it doesn't recognize Greek symbols either. And I think that's a bit of a problem. So let me just write the proper beta here. Or maybe a gamma, or maybe a pi, you know, or a rho. None of these will work, and I think this is a problem currently, and I think this should be definitely improved, but as it is now, it doesn't recognize any of those symbols. So this means that if you want to write math, chemistry, or physics, it will not be able to convert successfully any of your formulas or anything like that. So you're pretty much kind of stuck to very basic math like plus, minus, multiply, divide, and ordinary numbers. With those things in mind, if you understand the limitations, what they are, then I think that you can still use this convert to text quite successfully. However, you have to keep in mind what the limitations are, and I usually use it, as I've shown here in the previous example, when I keep in mind that I keep the punctuation right, keep the spacing between the letters correct, don't write everything kind of bunched up together, use dashes for the bullet points, then I really don't have any problems, and I find it to be quite a powerful and useful tool. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and see you next time. Bye!